But we felt we should do that because Mozambique and other countries are taking our project of expanding interest in astronomy sciences very, very seriously. And we had a series of fascinating meetings where we're not just talking about the science of astronomy, we're also talking about human capital development linked to astronomy. So the issues of development that Mr. Governor was referring to came up as key areas of interest. Mozambique has got a number of young people that are beginning to pursue postgraduate studies in the astronomy sciences, and so we believe we must provide the kind of support that will give them a basic research facility for them to continue to do high-level research work. And that's why we made that commitment. I must say, DG, it was most amusing watching the SKA project office staff who were part of my delegation. The minute they saw us intending to offer something, I saw them bowing their heads. They were really nervous, Ms. Shun, that I was going to give away SKA money. I could see, I think her name is Anita Lewis, yes, trying to frown at me, being very careful. But I shouldn't quite see the frown. But she was very, very concerned. But anyway, I think she's reassured now. So we continue our work because, as we've said, part of what we want to do is certainly, as has been indicated by the new director of the Astronomy for Development Office, is to look at the science and its potential for advancing development. But more particularly, we would like to see Africa being at the center of the future development of astronomy sciences. We think the geographic position of Africa, we believe its youthful population, we believe its entry into science increasingly makes it absolutely fit to be a major player in this area of science. And also to allow us to utilize the astronomy science as a means of exploring other disciplines in science. And therefore, I do think, as we advance in our knowledge, practice, and understanding of this field of science, we also will have to look at the multidisciplinary character and how we infuse it into both the practice and exploration of this area of science. So I'm a keen ambassador and trying to do the work that all of you, I believe, have been doing for many, many years. Now, I gave that introduction separate from my speech, so I wanted to just give you a sense of the work that poor politicians like me have to do. But I also did it because, I'm trying to avoid this long list of protocol. When I was at school in London, of course, we were totally irreverent in the English working class system of education where I went to school. And we thought politicians were really very funny people. And so all this protocol, minister, da-da-da-da. We weren't into that. And we used to laugh our heads off at politicians. I'm very bad at protocol, I'm afraid. But allow me to welcome Professor Williams in particular, and the Vice President of the International Union. We're very pleased that you can all be here with us. The newly elected executive of the union that was launched. I'm very excited to hear that Middle East and Africa are now beginning to come together and look at how we advance our work in this area of science. And of course, Professor Charles, our program director today, and I see Professor Ellis is here, as well as various other colleagues from the South African academic community, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. In our department, the Department of Science and Technology, we have 5 key priority areas that we've adopted as the focus areas for the work that we do as a department. Many of you are familiar with what we call the 10-year innovation program of the department. That program has 5 areas outlined within it. The 5 are space science and astronomy, energy, particularly renewable, developing biotechnology as an important field in which we would like to see greater participation by South Africa and Africa, especially in the field of what we call indigenous knowledge systems, that is using traditional remedies to respond to modern health problems, and playing an increasing role in Africa developing responses to the massive disease burden that Africa confronts. So biotechnology, very important. The fourth area is that of global change, and in particular there, looking at the area of climate change and how we develop instruments and responses that help us to mitigate or adapt toward this challenge that is facing the global community. And the last is a very important area, and that is human and social dynamics. Because we believe that while indeed the natural and other sciences are very important, we must never neglect to study and understand society, especially given our place in the world as a very new democracy that is in almost a constant state of transition and change, and the need to understand what is happening within communities, what processes we need to put in place in order to sustain the move toward democracy and the steps toward increased development and improved quality of life of our people. So those form 5 key priorities, and within them are embedded a whole range of the disciplines all of you are familiar with. Now, when the plan was drafted, I wasn't Minister of Science and Technology. If I had been, I would have added 3 rings around the 5 priorities. And those rings would have been geographic advantage, because I believe it has particular value for us as a department. A second ring would have been infrastructure, because all those priorities mean nothing if you don't have the facilities to execute your exploration of those areas, and therefore infrastructure would have been a second ring. And the final ring would have been perhaps the most significant, human capital. Now, we've infused each of those in the way in which we elaborate the priority areas. But sometimes, due to their absence from the framework, we tend to neglect really articulating them as a specific focal area for our department. But I think in terms of our meeting today, the issue of geographic advantage is particularly important. Our country is very fortunate, and it's been a wonderful experience of discovery for me, being the new Minister of Science and Technology, to find out that South Africa has such amazing competence in a range of discipline areas. It's been a really wonderful discovery, and it's shocking that I had to become Minister of Science to discover it, and that I have to bore my dear colleagues with my cabinet memoranda for them to understand it. But we have built up a very credible record of excellence in a number of scientific fields. But I think 2 of these are of great importance to our celebration of the launch today. One is the issue of the place of Africans in humanity, our identity as Africans in our world today. And this is the science of paleontology, the origin of humankind. The other is, of course, the opportunity that Africa offers for scientists to develop a greater understanding of the universe and to use our location and place in the world in order to carry out leading-edge research into astronomy and cosmology. So these 2 areas of our geographic advantage render us a unique space for carrying out very exciting work in paleontology and in astronomy. And it is what we are really trying to articulate when we speak of geographic advantage. I think, as Kevin very accurately stated, very few things excite people more than trying to understand deep time, trying to understand origins. Where does life come from? Where did dinosaurs go? Why did we have mass extinction? What happened when we had meteorites crashing with our world? How have human beings evolved into what they are today? All of these are intriguing questions, both for young people and for scientists. We have a rich tradition in our country of research into human origins, and we have been recognized as having a set and group of acclaimed institutions and scientists in this particular field. Our fossil record of hominid evolution is arguably one of the most complete, and it's recorded in scientific journals as spanning more than 4 million years. So we've become somewhat of a global leader in the study of paleosciences. We, of course, share this characteristic with many parts of Africa, and it's a unifying part of an increased awareness of the importance of Africa if we are to understand Africa's rich contribution to humanity. I think it's a very important aspect for us to give more attention to. So while I am promoting astronomy, I'm also an ambassador for paleontology, because I believe that paleontology speaks very strongly to the identity of Africans and presents us with a proud status that we can occupy in the study of human origins. There's very little that we are credited with as Africans in the world. But the fact that everybody came from our continent means we can stand up with pride and say that to the world. So I am working alongside my astronomy work with colleagues in the paleosciences arena to look at how we give greater prominence to the science and how we build up appropriate national institutions that will enjoy global attention in terms of this area of science. And of course, the other area is that of astronomy. Stuart Clark poses the questions we would want to look at as we look at the stars. Big questions. How big is the universe? He says. How old is the universe? How many things does the universe contain? All of these questions are borrowed from Stuart Clark. Well, everybody knows it's very big out there, but we all are very keen to know how big. And fortunately, we have the institutions and the time to carry out the investigation. Stuart Clark continues. How far can we travel in the universe? Will we ever get close to strange, enormous, faraway objects? And as the president asked me the other day, what is the black hole? Will we ever get close to it? You have your president ask you that, and you wonder if you could stay in the executive for long. And he continued to ask me, is a pulsar a car? You have a sense of what I'm confronted with. Just yesterday afternoon, I was struggling with one of our officials, Dr. Siokwe, to explain interferometer to Minister Masingwe of Mozambique, and very large database systems, and roach, open architecture. Is it me saying these things? And really, attempting to, explain all of them. So these are all deep questions. Of course, we don't know the answers to all of them as yet. But what we do know is that the universe is constantly changing because it is expanding. Astronomers are assisting us to find answers to these big questions